Hi, welcome to PT Mill Physical Therapy Podcast. The video you're about to watch is my conversation with Professor Cheryl Peralta. It was recorded live in Facebook. Professor Cheryl Peralta is the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs and a professor at the College of Rehabilitation Sciences of the University of Santo Tomas, Manila. She has more than 20 years of teaching experience, majority of which were devoted to administrative positions in the university. Her leadership experience in higher education focused on navigating programs towards national and global competitiveness, responding to changing needs dictated by evolving policies, standards, educational contexts, and industry demands. So she holds consultancy positions in the Commission of Higher Education and the Professional Regulation Commission for more than 10 years, and that allows her to immerse in national policy development not only for the education of the future professionals, but likewise for their continuing professional development and career progressions. Her academic interests center on quality assurance in education, promoting the use of educational data for informed decision making. She is a licensed physical therapist by profession and holds a degree in Doctor of Public Health, major in epidemiology after completing a master's degree in physical therapy. She also completed a master's degree in health professions education that fueled her interest in pursuing a career as an educator, receiving various awards and recognition at the institutional and national levels. Let's hear the conversation.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much for your patience.
No
I'm done
problem.
technical difficulties. Sobrang hindi ako sanay with doing live. Ito yung iniiwasan ko kaya
Yeah,
ako
okay lang yan.
puro recorded.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So I think we should just dive in to the conversation. Siguro ma'am, let's start with you've been in almost all roles a physical therapist hopes for. Like you're an educator, a researcher, you became dean, now admin, then a consultant for like policy making institutions in the government. So what is it about physical therapy that ignites your passion? Yeah, nandiyan ka pa rin like to elevate the profession and stuff.
Well, because it's our profession, no? So
Mhm.
it's really something that we've committed to doing, and I think that's
Mhm.
true for everyone, naman. So I believe that we all have our own role to perform in. We have our own share, no, to moving the profession forward. And
Mhm.
I believe even as an individual, no, even those who are in practice, they may not really have had the opportunity to participate, let's say, in national policy making, but at their own level, no, in their own practice, there is always that opportunity to contribute to the advancement of the profession. No? So when we try to do better with the way we do things every day, no? Especially during the pandemic, no? It's been
Mhm.
very challenging.
Right.
There's been a lot of disruptions to how we do things, how we used to do things, and we'll never go back to doing things the same way. No? So
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Right.
so I think that's it. I'm just fortunate that I've had the chance to participate, no, in all
Mhm.
these undertakings. So hopefully I'll be able to somehow give my own share dun
Mhm.
sa growth ng profession.
Right.
Yep.
I think that's what every physical therapist should like strive for is to at least give a little part of their service to the elevation of our profession
Yep.
para we all like grow together.
Yep.
Okay,
I agree.
so let's dive in now to our main topic, which is physical therapy education. But but could you give us a little background first on what you do in the Commission of Higher Education in the Technical Committee for Physical Therapy, what you do there and what the committee does?
Yeah. So for in
Mhm.
CHED, when they develop policies for programs, yung program-specific policies, particular to each of the professions, they get a group of consultants
Mhm.
um, currently given appointments, no, as members of the technical committees. So there are technical committees for each of the professions, and then the chair or the head of these technical committees, they sit in a technical panel. So, like for me, I'm the chair of the technical committee for physical therapy education. With me are our members. So we have Dr. Carmelo Conanan. We have Dr. Maria Elizabeth Grajeda, Mabechay, and then Sir Royson Mercado. And the representative for PRC is Honorable Raul Agustin. So we are 5 in the committee. And then I represent the Technical Committee for Physical Therapy Education in the Technical Panel for Health Professions Education, which is composed of 13 health professions. So we sit together, we discuss policy development, part of our role or tasks pre-pandemic, where also includes monitoring of schools, responding to school inquiries in terms of implementation of approved policies by CHED, providing assistance to the regional offices um, in terms of similarly responding to inquiries or evaluating applications of schools, ganyan. So these are just some of the tasks that we do. But we are consultants, so we are not CHED. We always emphasize that. We're not CHED. We are consultants. The documents we come up with are recommendatory. So we are recommending them. And then it is CHED that approves these policies.
And part of your task there is to set the minimum standards, tama ba ako, ma'am, na of PT schools. Okay.
Yeah.
Are these minimum standards all PT schools should abide by standards, or is it like a guideline?
So there is we call the CHED calls them CHED memorandum orders. So there are minimum policy standards and guidelines for each of the programs. So in our case for PT, our minimum standards are reflected in the yung most recent natin is CMO 55 series of 2017.
Right.
So DCMOs, the policy standards and guidelines for each of the professions, they provide the minimum requirements for program outcomes, curriculum, administrators, faculty, even facilities also, no? So pero yun nga, as you said, it's minimum, no? So the schools are encouraged to enhance beyond the minimum standards, but they cannot go below it, no? So that somehow sets the parang the set expectations, no, for all of the schools offering the PT program.
And you also mentioned like you monitor also the schools, that how they implement the guidelines.
Yes. Pre-pandemic yon, pre-pandemic. During the pandemic, we have not returned, no, to monitoring the schools. It's more supportive yung role natin ngayon. So the technical committee, kahit naman pre-pandemic, the technical committee has been working very closely with the Philippine Physical Therapy Association, with the Philippine Association of Rehabilitation Sciences Schools, or the Association of Deans for the rehab science programs, no? So combined 'yon, no? PT, OT, tsaka speech also nandun din. Kasi most of the HEIs or higher education institutions offering PT are also the ones offering OT and speech. Kaya rehab sciences schools 'yon. And then we also are in touch with our professional regulatory board for physical therapy. So and then we try to come up with consultative meetings. We participate in our conventions, no, para we also provide our constituents, no, our colleagues, with updates on what is happening in the PT education realm.
All right. So with what happened last year, 2020 na nag-erupt na yung COVID and restrictions, how was the the management of schools, monitoring, were what changed with how physical therapy schools delivered education?
Well, it was really unprecedented, no? So
Yeah.
so we must admit that in the second term, so kasi nag-start March, no? So
Mm-hmm.
I think for everyone naman, no? So I think it was March 9 when at least yung city of Manila suspended already classes, no? Then within the week, nag-suspend na rin si President, no?
Mm-hmm.
And we were not able to go back anymore. That's March 9, 2020. It's been about 1.5 years. So everyone had to do an emergency shift
Mm-hmm.
to remote instruction. So there were, of course, depending on the capability of the schools and
Right.
their existing resources, I think for most of the schools, they shifted to online learning.
Mm-hmm.
For other schools, they tried to see how they can provide the materials still, no? And then I guess for the emergency shift during the second term, they just have to make use of whatever is available to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, come academic year 2020-2021, I think that one already somehow had some plans laid down. No? So we know that certain schools, they had to set up their own learning management systems. Other schools decided to go for module distribution
Mm-hmm.
or provision of soft copies of
Mm-hmm.
the modules, no? So, ganun. So, sometime June, we did consultative meetings with schools, and also later on, we included the affiliation centers also, no? Our training
Mm-hmm.
centers. Kasi nga, we wanted to see, okay, how are you coping?
Right.
What are our challenges, what are our suggestions, know how, and then it also provided us with an opportunity to hear what other schools are doing, and so to help the other schools, no,
Mm-hmm.
navigate through the changes brought about by the pandemic. And
Right.
then I in sometime in September, I think, no, the memorandum order for flexible learning was released by CHED. So that somehow formalizes what options we have in terms of continuing learning amidst the pandemic. So um, the CMO, which is available naman in the CHED website, provides options to schools. So depending on the technological capacity and internet connectivity of their students, no, they can make use of various modalities
Mm-hmm.
in order to continue with teaching and learning. So, and then sometime I think it was sometime January or early February when CHED released the CHED DOH Joint Memorandum Circular providing guidelines on reopening of schools to limited face-to-face classes. So meron na rin naman yan ngayon. No? So
Mm-hmm.
with that, physical therapy was one of the 6 priority health programs, no? Given the go signal to start preparing for limited face-to-face classes, no, resuming. So with that, while the schools are still trying to improve in the delivery of their remote instruction, no, kasi nga wala pa rin namang klase,
Mm-hmm.
they now have to do side by side with it the reopening, no, of
Uh,
campuses to limited face-to-face classes.
Are they required to do face to face, or they have an option to do limited face to face, or stick to the remote classes?
What we try to emphasize here is
Mm.
that if we look at the program intended learning outcomes for physical therapy, there are really outcomes that
Mm.
cannot be fully developed online. Yeah, ang lagi nga namin sabi dyan nakakita na ba naman, I mean, na-imagine nyo ba ang isang graduate ng PT na pinagraduate natin na hindi man lang nakahawak ng kahit isang pasyente na face-to-face.
Right.
Okay naman tayo sa telemedicine, no? We have nothing against, and we appreciate the schools, no? Who really try to find collaborative undertakings, no, with the clinical affiliation centers, with their partner communities, in order to provide telemedicine as a service. Yeah, we emphasize that it has to be first a service that you have established before it becomes a training platform, diba? But even if there's telemedicine, telerehab, no, that can be rendered, our practice is not purely telerehab. So we also cannot we cannot compromise the quality of healthcare delivery by shall I say, by fielding professionals, no, who may not have fully developed the necessary competencies to be able to effectively address the healthcare needs of our future patients and clients. So it's hard, no? We understand the difficulties, we understand the challenges of and the risks, diba? So everyone understands that. But there are also scientifically proven mitigation measures naman, which if we are to really strictly adhere to them, no, and if we're able to plan things out, I think there is a way for us to reduce the risks of returning to campus.
So now, yung mga schools, they have implemented limited face-to-face. They've started.
Some, yes. We don't have a number yet, no? We don't have the numbers, but there are schools who have been approved or given the certificate of authority to reopen campus to limited face-to-face classes.
So last year when the COVID pandemic broke out, wala pong nag-intern that time, right? O meron pa rin nag-continue?
Meron, I think, for some of the schools. For those schools na hindi kumuha, kasi di ba may gap tayo sa enrollment because of K-12, no?
Oh,
so,
right.
in 2016, 2017, we started implementing senior high school. So, there are schools with an enrollment gap, no, for academic year 2020, 2021. Therefore, wala silang interns. I don't know if that's thankful or not, no?
So, nagkataon. Good coincidence.
Nagkataon, wala silang interns. But there are schools with interns. So those with interns, they started off with virtual. So they started off with virtual internships. We encouraged, yun sa mga consultative meetings nga natin, we encouraged na, sige, okay naman po yun. Kasi wala naman tayong choice, no? Talagang, this is not something that we can control naman. So we just have to make do with whatever we have. But we encourage them that even if they are doing virtual internships, it will still be good to do this together with clinical centers, no? Clinical practitioners. Kasi iba rin naman ang contribution, no, ng clinical practitioners into kahit pa sabihing case-based instruction din naman yan. Anong difference niya sa ginagawa na natin sa courses? So, in order to introduce those, we encourage that this still be done with clinical practitioners. But it was also a reality that at that time, it's not just education that was disrupted. No? So, even the services provided by the affiliation centers were likewise disrupted. So, dun sa consultative meeting namin with them sometime in October, they did express na quite a number of them are not yet ready to take in interns even if it's online. Kasi syempre ibang preparation pa rin yon, no? It's not as if they will just jump into the Zoom link and then teach, no? Hindi naman siya ganon. So they will have to set it up. So merong mga ganong concerns, and the limited number of affiliation centers willing to do or to accept interns kahit virtual was also one of the challenges that schools had to face. No? So they had to innovate and determine what else they can do.
So paano po yan when they have this number of interns pero limited number of affiliations? They have to be creative, but
Yeah. So the schools had to organize a program na parang in-house nila yon dinevelop bale, no? So, kasi no choice naman, no? So, they have to continue. Siyempre at that time, wala pa rin naman kasing ibang mandate ng CHED except to continue with flexible learning, which they did. So, yun nga lang, understandably, yun nga, as I mentioned, there are really skills that you can only do so much, no, with flexible learning. So, yeah, the schools had to organize their own programs and come up with enhancements, no, by trying to invite experts, clinicians, practitioners to be part of that.
Were there any schools that reported that some of their students did not enroll for that year? Oh, okay. So what would happen to those
There
students?
are
Okay lang?
delayed lang sila bale. So, there are students who did not proceed with enrollment. Meron din naman yung mga nag-request sila talaga na i-defer na lang kasi mas gusto nilang face-to-face ang
Okay.
internship. Totoo naman yun, diba? So, gusto naman natin yan. So, even the parents, no, in our, sabi nga din ng mga schools and the clinics, even the parents, they also express, no, na o sige, papatigilin ko na lang muna kasi sayang naman kung magtutuloy siya tas hindi naman talaga yun ang pinaka-best experience, no, that the student can have.
Right.
So there were some schools who reported that. Others really had to stop because of financial concerns, no? So the pandemic has brought a lot of financial challenges to families, no? So may mga tumigil din because of that. And still others, especially ngayong mayroong limited face-to-face, no? So kung nakatuloy man sila with the um, online internship, there is a provision naman in the CMO or in the CHED DOH Joint Memorandum Circular that the schools shall respect, no, the decision of students and families, no, if they decide that the risks are too high for them, they would not want to proceed with limited face-to-face, they may file for a leave of absence and then they may be readmitted, no, anytime later to complete the internship.
And hindi nila kailangan ng refresher or anything, just pick up where they left off?
I think ano naman yun, the school now, upon readmitting the students, kasi reality rin naman sa atin na every year may bago, no? So every year there's something new. So the school now has that liberty to determine whether there is a need to do some bridging sessions, no, before they even let the students start off with internship again. Kasi understandable talaga yung learning losses natin because of the pandemic, no. So yung shift to online learning, talagang meron tayong mga outcomes na hindi mo mamimit doon. Therefore, kailangang i-bridge before they even start handling patients in the clinics.
Would it be the school's task, or would it be the affiliation center's task to bridge those probably gaps, or both?
I think it will have to be a collaborative approach. Often the schools are in a better position to draft the whole program kasi. So they have that they are in a position to look at the whole program that the student went through already, kasi kung may partial na siya na virtual, and what else the student has to go through if it's face-to-face. So I think in that case, the school has or may be able to get data on, okay, ano pa yung kailangan niyang ma-complete, no, before we allow that student to proceed to handling patients. In the case of the clinics, I think there is also much that they can do to supplement whatever the school has already done, no? Whether virtually or in the bridging sessions that they conducted. Kasi yun nga yung challenge talaga no? So bukod dun sa limited lang yung hours na isa-spend nila sa school with the limited face-to-face. Kasi X number of students using X number of facilities, tapos konti lang sila, no? You cannot put 40 students in a classroom anymore, no? So
Right.
you'll have to put them in clusters, spread them out, have assigned faculty, gano'n. So may mga logistical challenges talaga. So limited yung hours. And so the clinics, it will really be very helpful for the students if the clinics can augment, no, the skills training. Although ang challenges naman nga daw ngayon sa clinics ay there are not enough patients naman.
I see.
Because
Okay.
not a lot go to hospitals, no? Syempre,
Mhm.
mga pasyente
Takot
ngayon,
din.
takot sila. So they do, there is also a reduced census, no, for
Mhm.
patients and clients in clinical facilities. So,
Mhm.
yun, sa balance talaga eh. They have to balance that.
Right. So, ngayon po, after experiencing like last year's academic year and this year is we're starting na, ano na po yung status ng mga physical therapy schools, how they're gonna adapt already in with what's happening, ano na yung mga steps na ginagawa nila or what
So,
will happen this academic year?
yeah, tuloy pa rin naman yung flexible learning, no? So, CHED, kumbaga parang nag-declare na rin naman si Chair De Vera, no, that flexible learning will actually be here to stay. So, we'll really have to improve on our flexible learning strategies. And then, yun nga, the schools are preparing to reopen campus. No? So in fact, there are already schools who have already opened their campus to internship. No? So yung may mga base hospitals who are compliant already with the DOH requirements for handling patients with COVID, ganyan. Tapos even the labs, they've opened up their laboratories inside the school in order to facilitate practice of skills.
Right. Oh, okay. So at least there are plans already. But do you see the flexible classes, learning classes or blended classes to start to wane off like every year or hintayin na lang natin?
Sa ngayon, kasi talagang one of the reasons why we cannot kumbaga reopen fully, no? Reopen fully
Right.
is but there's still that threat, no, of the COVID-19 virus. In fact, ngayon nga variants na yung mga pinag-uusapan, 'di ba?
Yeah,
So
right.
plus vaccination wise, we have not reached herd immunity yet. So that is a big consideration in the extent of reopening, no, that we can do. Kasi reality read yon na alam natin na pag nag-reopen tayo, yung chances of infection, nandun yon, there's that risk. But there are also, as I've said, no, mitigation measures, public health protocols, safety measures that we can do, no, and that includes vaccination, in fact, no. So vaccination, testing, contact tracing, kasama lahat yan, no. So there are protocols that schools put in place, and these protocols are anchored on national health and safety
Policies.
protocols din naman. So whether it will wane later, siguro to a certain extent. Sa ngayon kasi parang at least for us in our experience, not just for PT, no, but even for the other programs, in UST, we try to do it one course, 1 year at a time. No? So para manage yung batches na papayagan mong bumalik. And then pagka nakikita natin that the protocols are being observed well, that everyone is everyone is already learning how to do their share of protection, di ba? Para everyone also is able to contribute to risk mitigation. Then that's the only time na gusto mong magdagdag pa rin ng susunod na year level, di ba? So if that's how winning yung kumbaga that's how we will win away from flexible learning, I think ganun talaga papunta doon talaga.
So sa UST ngayon, unti-unti muna nilang
Yes.
Hindi, okay.
In UST kasi, what we do, yun nga, no, we prioritize those programs who already have policies no, na
Mhm.
na-release ng CHED. Or at least, if we are being consulted, kasi because we are a comprehensive university, no, so we have quite a number of programs in the university. So
Mm.
we are usually consulted by association of schools for various professions as to how we do it, no, for
Mhm.
ano. And then because our health programs have already started, those now become benchmarks also for
Okay.
the other profession. So it parang nagkakaroon tayo ng parang template process, template
Mhm.
programs no na pwedeng pagbasihan. So what we do, we prioritize. So we prioritize first graduating students.
Okay.
Tapos anong courses ng graduating students ang kailangan ng face-to-face engagement. So
Mhm.
malinaw sa atin na if the outcomes can be achieved without face-to-face, then let's not have face-to-face.
Mhm.
Only the outcomes that cannot be achieved through online learning, those are the courses no, that we will render hours for face-to-face. So we start off with graduating students because we want to prepare them for the world of work, no?
Right.
Wherein not everything naman is work from home.
Mhm.
So they really have to do skills. And then later, we will go to the next level, yung mga susunod namang magi-internship. Because we also understand that having missed actual laboratory classes in campus, there are skills that they have not practiced no
Mhm.
during their third year or even the second half the second year no, so dapat makabalik na rin sila paunti-unti so that you don't have to do a lot of bridging naman before they go into internship,
Mhm.
and then so on and so forth no, so pababa lang pababa.
Nice. Hindi nila naranasan yung tatawagin yung pangalan nila for pracs or
Correct, oo, wala na yan.
or hindi nila marinig yung
Meron
bell.
yan online ngayon, no?
Meron.
Nagpa-practicals pa rin. Oo, nagpa-practicals pa rin. I came I came to observe one time din, no? So ganoon pa rin, naka-assign ka pa rin sa faculty, pero Zoom link lang ang pinapasukan niyo. Pero may
Okay.
sked ka pa rin, o sumasagot ka pa rin ng questions.
Aha.
Re-return demo ka pa rin ng skills, pero dapat may pasyente kang kasama sa bahay. Kung may
Family
partner ka.
member?
Yes, oo.
Okay.
So, yung nana, yung kapatid, yung ganyan. No? So,
Mhm.
yeah. So, we appreciate the innovativeness and the creativity of our faculty members and administrators in coming up with all these alternatives.
Mhm. At least hindi nabawasan ng konti yung ano nila, experience nila with it comes to pracs na
Yeah.
physical
Pero iba pa
therapist.
rin, no? Pero iba pa rin, syempre, pagka
Pag may
face-to-face. So,
pagkaharap mo talaga yung professor mo habang
yeah.
ni-scrutinize ka. The kung naalala ko po yung ano yung CMO 55, I think the transition of the new curriculum is set this year, right? 2021-2022. Tama
Yeah,
po ba?
the full implementation. So we started in academic year 2018-2019.
Mhm.
That was the year when the first batch of senior high school graduates entered college. So
Mhm.
for 4 years, 4-year programs, 4 years na lang kasi ang PT ngayon. So for 4-year programs, we're running the 4th-year curriculum this academic year, 21-22. So we'll finish one whole cycle of the new curriculum by this year. For 5-year programs, kasi in the case of UST, ang 5-year program na lang natin ay architecture,
Mhm.
hanggang next year pa yung full cycle
Sila.
nila. So after one full cycle, we will commence. Schools are expected to commence with curriculum evaluation, no, so that they can see whether there are improvements that need to be done in the curriculum in the succeeding years.
So far po ba, were there any feedback on the difference between the old curriculum to the present curriculum?
Well, there are a lot of changes. One, nagbago ang GE curriculum pero marami pa rin yung units.
Opo.
So,
Nakita ko nga eh.
Yeah, but they hindi nakatulad before that when you start off the program, all your GE are usually in the first and second years.
Mm-hmm.
So, pagpasok, may majors agad.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right.
they are expected to already start off with foundational courses, no, in the majors. And then another is that skills-based nga kasi siya agad, no?
Mm-hmm.
So, integrative din yung approaches. But it depends on the school, no? On how they organize. Kasi yun, that's one unique feature of the PT CMO. It really is not a prescriptive curriculum, no? So, we set the minimum outcomes, minimum content standards, and
Mm-hmm.
the schools are given the liberty to organize their own courses, depending on how they deem it more appropriate through backward design of the curriculum, so that they are assured that their institutional outcomes and the minimum program outcomes are achieved.
Mm, okay. Um, let's go now. I remember. The one of the, I think, outcomes in the CMO 55 was it's heavily on research, right? So is it the school's task, or is it the affiliating or the clinic's task to bridge like the research and to practice? Or because I think, well, in my time there, we noticed some there's gaps in the what we have learned and what is being practiced
Mm.
now ba sa curriculum or in the affiliation centers. Is that gap like being lessened already, or
Hopefully.
uh-huh.
Hopefully. So, yeah, there is at least one program outcome that focuses on research,
Mm-hmm.
and it enumerates performance indicators relevant to effectively performing a researcher role in the context of physical therapy practice. But
Mm-hmm.
the outcome is, well, the outcome at minimum is expecting students, no, to be good users of research
Okay.
evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Minimum yon. So,
Uh-huh.
all schools should teach their students to utilize research evidence to make practice decisions. So,
Mm-hmm.
in our case, ano yan, no? Evidence-based practice.
Right,
Oo.
right.
But universities, kasi may typology, no? When we started drafting the CMO, there's what we call the horizontal typology of schools, no? Universities, colleges, professional institutions. So, regardless of typology, everyone or every school is expected to develop graduates who can effectively utilize research evidence for practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for universities, in addition, they have to ensure that their graduates can be producers of
Mm-hmm.
research. So,
Okay.
new knowledge. No? So, but of course, that doesn't prevent naman college and professional institute graduates to be producers of research. No? Pero
Mm-hmm.
at minimum, dapat yung mga university graduates, marunong sila. No?
Gotcha, gotcha.
So, yung gap na sinasabi mo, that's yung curriculum bridge, that gap,
Mm-hmm.
um, we're hoping
Mm-hmm.
that, of course, you cannot address everything naman ng dito lang sa bago, no? So we're
Right.
hoping that as we all contribute to the advancement of the profession, kasi ang number one doon is to make sure that our own competencies are updated, di ba?
Right.
So we have to make sure that we are updated with the current practices,
Mm-hmm.
scientific evidence on what will be good and not good for our patients, no?
Mm-hmm.
So pagka kasi yung professionals are also abreast with the current trends, then it's no problem, no? Pagdating ng students, they have good role models
Mm-hmm.
to take on, no? So, and I think that's where CPD comes in, no? So
Mm-hmm.
yung continuing professional development being promulgated by the Professional Regulation Commission is actually intended to do that. So those who are already in practice, so we understand that they have a very rich experience already with patients,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have to ensure that their level of knowledge and skills already capture new trends in the profession.
Right. So the task of the school is to provide the current, uh, researches. The clinician would also want to stay abreast with current evidences, but would that translate as well to the licensure exam? The the formulation of the questions of the licensure, is it abreast? Should it be abreast with the current evidences?
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Kasi ano naman yan, when in our discussions with the Professional Regulatory Board,
Mm-hmm.
indeed, kasi PRC develops a table of specifications for the licensure examinations, and by practice, these will have to be aligned with whatever policy standards and guidelines were released by CHED for the profession. So there's a system naman that they do for that. So hopefully, kasi gagraduate tayo ng unang batch ngayong taon,
Right.
magbo-board exam yon, no?
Uh-huh.
So hopefully the board exam as we expect it will also align already with the outcomes, yung outcomes based education. And I believe we've had several meetings naman na din with our professional regulatory board, and Honorable Agustin is also seated naman in the technical committee. So we're hoping that will facilitate the smooth transition.
Right. Okay. Well, very hopeful for that for our future colleagues. Let me ask a question of someone who commented in the Facebook promotion. So his question is from Kirby Baloy. How often is the validity of practice evaluated versus the psychometrics of the curriculum being utilized? While I understand that this is within curricular standards, may lag behind current practice, and are there efforts to align it?
Yeah, that is really a reality, not just for PT, but for any profession. In fact, there are literature saying that the half-life of knowledge is shrinking. So the half-life of knowledge for college degree is I think 3 or 4 years, no? So bago ka pag gumraduate, kalahati na lang nung alam mo yung valid for your practice, diba? So I think that one cannot be bridged by schools alone. So kasi nga we are all in a journey of continuing professional competency. So that is something that is part and parcel of our responsibility as a professional, and I think we owe it to our patients to assure them that we know the best options for care for them, the best options for them, cost effective options for them, so worth their money, safe and effective, diba? Pero hindi mo kasi yun mai-assure if we will just depend on curricula that you go through for 4 years.
Right.
Because curricula also, they don't change every month. They don't change every year, in fact. So the curricula of schools, siguro, while there may be parang midway evaluations being done by schools, you wouldn't also want to change the curriculum every year. Because it's really very hard if you do that. So that's why often, ngayon, one option for the schools is to put in, let's say, courses that will capture emerging practices. So makakakuha ka na may mga curriculum na may professional electives, ganyan.
Right.
So pwede mong ipasok doon yung mga bago ngayon, or may mga curriculum na may mga courses on emerging practices. So yung mga bagong trends na ipasok nila. So mas madali kasi yung magbago ng course plan or content within a course rather than change the whole curriculum. So on the other hand, graduates also should be very, very aware of the fact that their knowledge upon graduation no longer captures all the new things, Kasi hindi mo talaga yon kayang daanan lahat. So the continuing plan for lifelong learning nga, di ba? So we have to be lifelong learners. Ika nga, no, that's part and parcel of the minimum standards ng WCPT, di ba? Kasi nga, maraming bago, especially with the technology, with the push for interprofessional collaboration, no, maraming bago. So professionals will have to take it upon ourselves to, one, to develop a career path. And that includes specialization. Di ba? Hindi na pwede yung dati na yung tinuturo natin sa estudyante kung ano pa yung natutunan natin nung gumraduate tayo. So, hindi na yung pwede, di ba? So, whether you're in the clinic or in the school, that will no longer that will no longer be acceptable. No? So, specialization, and I should say that specialization, no, might be specialization in terms of roles or specialization in terms of the area of practice that you are in, will help us at least focus ourselves, no, on a particular area that we can be very good at. Kasi sa Philippine Qualifications Framework din naman, yung pag-graduate natin at pagkuha natin ng lisensya is not the peak of the framework. Level 6 lang kasi yun hanggang level 8 yung Philippine Qualifications Framework. So, ibig sabihin, professionals are expected to reach the peak, no, the highest level in the framework, which is level 8. And right now, PRC is actually working on the different professional regulatory boards, no, and the consultative committees that they've created are working on career progression frameworks naman, no. Yung sa atin din, so we're also working career progression frameworks so that physical therapists can go to level 7 or post-baccalaureate and level 8 or doctoral and postdoctoral, hindi lang through the academic track wherein you enroll in master's or doctoral programs, but even through the professional track wherein your professional experience and your non-degree trainings can be credited. And be considered as level 7 or level 8 equivalent. So may mga ganyan naman. So para in the future din, hindi lang tayo yung lagi namin sinasabi to sa CPD Council, no? Pagka we get a chance to talk to our professionals in seminars, no? So we always tell them, kaya po pagka gano'n na, hindi na yung para lang ma-comply mo yung 15 units requirement for renewal, may seminar ngayon ng pedya, attend ka ng pedya. Next week may seminar ng stroke, attend ako ng stroke. Susunod, meron ng seminar ng gano'n. So, o kaya nakakita ako ng seminar on admin, attend ako ng admin. Parang, di ba? So, parang, kailangan may plano ka. Okay lang naman umattend ng lahat ng yon. If they all fit within your plan of specialization or focused practice wherein you will really be able to contribute to the advancement of the practice and healthcare.
Yeah, with the talks of specialization, is there a plan or at least, pinag-iisipan na to start the idea of specialization in schools? Like for here kasi I think some schools in the US in their physical therapy schools would have like offer neuro track in their schools. Is that something is that an option or?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, actually, sa ngayon kasi, yung career progression framework, no, that's being created for physical therapy, they're anchored on the rules. Kasi CMO 55 already, kasi kinoconsult din naman natin yan, no, with practitioners before we come up with these CMOs in CHED. So, upon consultation, so we identified several rules that the physical therapist performs after graduation, and those are now the basis for career progression frameworks that we're working on, no, in the committee. But aside from the roles, let's say clinician, educator, no, may subspecializations to, no, like yung sinasabi mo, neuro, ortho, manual therapy, ganyan, no, so marami yan. And for educators, it can be a clinical educator or members of the academe, di ba? So may mga ganon. So yung mga yan, sa ngayon, even our master's programs that are already running, they already integrate these specialization tracks. No? So, which I think is good. Though we also do not want to discourage those who would want to remain in the general clinical practice track.
Right.
Pero gagalingan pa rin nila. Kumbaga, ang specialization pa rin gusto nila is clinician track, no? Pero on general practice, kasi we recognize that there are really areas that do not really need highly specialized therapists. Like if you're working in a, let's say in a tertiary hospital, general hospital who caters to all kinds of patients and clients, hindi ka pwedeng magaling ka lang sa isang grupo ng pasyente, no? So you really have to cater to everyone. So yung ganon, kaya we recognize na, baka nga by role ang dapat na first layer ng specialization. And then later, they can subspecialize if that is a requirement, or at least if that will benefit their individual practice or their individual institutions.
Right. So pag sa hospital, unless malaking hospital, tapos meron silang PT for neuro, may PT sila for ortho, PT sila for pelvic floor.
Kasi ano rin if we look at it, no, in terms of right now, when we look at the primary healthcare, no, universal healthcare implementation, no, in the country, while specializations may have a role in that, no, we see that especially for resource limited areas, general practitioners will have a very big role in ensuring that access to services are made available.
Right. Kasi minsan yung physical therapist lang yung available, though wala naman tayong, direct access. Pero PT lang nandun sa isang community.
Pero ano naman yon, no? Recognized naman din, even in our current law, which is a bit old, no? Nakalagay naman doon na yes, we have to have well, by the law, it's prescription from a physician, no? But prescription naman kasi can come in different ways, no? But what's clear is if a patient or a client, no, comes to you consulting, no, and you think that qualified naman siya for PT services, but you really need to have this particular patient cleared, no, medically, and so the referral the knowledge about referral systems is very important, no. Kasi in terms of the practice of physical therapy, we should have that knowledge to distinguish, no, ano yung kaya natin gawin, di natin kayang gawin. Pag di natin kayang gawin, that would be detrimental to the patient, di ba? So you have to refer out, and then balik siya sa'yo para lang ma-ensure na safe talaga, no, kapag ni-render natin yung interventions.
Right. Wow. So, tayo ko pong natutunan sa inyo in terms of physical therapy education. It was a good conversation. Siguro po, last thoughts on what, how do we want to see physical therapy moving forward in terms of education?
Recently, the WCPT published a new document. No? I think it was framework for physical therapy education. No? Kasi in consideration nga of all these changes, sa akin, we should really anticipate that the changes brought about by COVID will not only change the way we practice, it has definitely changed the way we develop future practitioners. And even practice will change, no? So ang bilis, 'di ba? Parang lahat, 'di ba, napabilis niya, no? So
lahat
we never imagined that tele-rehab will gain so much traction in such short time, 'di ba? So this now becomes a mainstay in our curriculum in that case, diba? So like as I was saying, diba, we perform different roles as clinicians right now. I believe there are new things we need to teach in light of COVID, diba? So also our role in infectious diseases now gets highlighted. Kasi parang before, we are more into the non-communicable, diba? Pero ngayon, meron din tayong role in terms of communicable diseases, and that's something that we need to emphasize also in the curriculum. For educators, it has definitely changed the way we deliver education, no, or instruction. Whether for students or for communities, for families, no. So We have to learn more about delivering things online, diba? O making sure that our strategies are effective for learning. Diba? So,
Mhm. Right.
researchers, ganun din. Nagbago rin yung mga approaches natin kasi hindi ka makapag-field work and all of that, no? Even community development and advocacy. So, there are a lot more changes that will happen with the fourth
Mhm.
industrial revolution right now and the upcoming fifth industrial revolution. Ang
Is that
dami,
what they
di ba?
calling?
Yes, with ano kasi, with automation, machine learning,
Mhm.
artificial intelligence.
Ah.
Sabi nga natin, darating yung panahon, hindi na tayo magtuturo ng paggagawa ng mga thermoplast, no? Susukatan mo lang yung pasyente, may 3D printer, okay
3D
na, di
printer,
ba?
right?
Oh, yeah, parang makagano na lang eh, di ba? So,
Mhm.
um, we really have to teach our students skills that will make them future ready.
Mhm.
So, and those skills may not necessarily just be focused on the new content that they need to know. They have to search for new content. They
Mhm.
have to learn how to learn on their own, no? And they will have to get the opportunities to really practice critical thinking,
Right.
creativity, teamwork,
Mhm.
and these are things that will really make them ready to face whatever is there no, in the future.
Mhm. Right. I agree. So ang learning ko naman dito is y- the schools would have a minimum standard curriculum, but we can't learn everything in school.
No,
We
you
can't,
can't.
yeah, we can't learn everything in internship.
Really.
So yung mga sinasabi na like we hear sentiments na oh, hindi ko natutunan yan sa school or something like that. Parang
Oo, diba?
yeah, hindi mo matututunan lahat sa school eh. You would
Hindi.
learn it as you
Totoo
go with the
yan.
practice. So
Totoo
it's
yan.
up it's up to you to learn more. Don't stop studying,
Mm.
researching, and helping your patients or kung sino man yung um stakeholder mo, your students, your patients or whoever. So yeah, so thank you, Ma'am Che. But before I let you go, I usually ask my guests in this podcast this question. Um, the podcast is called PT Meal. It's a complete meal of information and inspiration from physical therapists. So my question is, what are the three essential ingredients in your life that you always carry? Maybe your principle, your belief. What are the three truths? What are the three things that make up Miss Mom Che?
Okay. Well, first, I think uh, we have to understand that opportunities do not always come to us. So
Mhm,
sometimes you have to seek them.
mhm,
So I remember talking to a batch of physical therapy students. I was invited to give a talk, no? And they were saying, paano na po yan, no? Nabawasan na yung opportunities namin kasi nga, paano yan? Magkakaroon pa ba kami ng trabaho? Ganyan.
ah,
After nito, dahil graduates kami of COVID batch, ganyan, no?
mhm,
But I told them, well, opportunities do not always come to you. You have to create your own opportunities. No?
true.
So, and the opportunities right now may not be the same opportunities that were available before.
Mhm,
So you just have to be open to possibilities. Again, no, we have to be prepared when opportunities come. No,
mhm,
so that we are able to grab them, and you don't just grab them for the sake of, no. Kasi
uh,
yung second is, um, you always have to remember that you do not know everything, no. So, and you are not always prepared for every opportunity that comes. So
true.
sabi nga, I always like this quote, no, that God does not call those who are prepared, no. So He prepares those whom He calls. So we just have to trust that process. No? So
Mhm,
sometimes kasi we're very hesitant to take on opportunities or take on a particular assignment because we feel we're not ready.
mhm,
But if you undertake all necessary means to prepare yourself, later on it will definitely be help you become a better person. No?
right.
So may reason naman bakit darating sa yung opportunity. So that one. And then lastly, it opportunities become more meaningful if they're not all about yourself. So when you
Good one.
do get an opportunity, it's not because you're good or I mean, it's not because you're good or you're known, kaya sa iyo to binibigay, di ba? So, no, it's actually an opportunity for you to serve others.
Mhm.
So, it is an opportunity for you to make use of whatever talents you have, whatever abilities you have, to hopefully create change in the world, no? In
Mhm.
whatever little way you can. And of course, that should be change for the better. So, kaya when these opportunities come, or when you do create these opportunities,
Mhm.
you have to prepare for them, and you have to bear in mind that these are all in the service of others. So I
Right.
hope that will push our profession forward for a stronger physical therapy profession.
I love that. I love that. The opportunities don't come to us. You don't know everything, and opportunities are good if it's not about yourself. Powerful. So again, thank you very much, Ma'am Che. Pasensya na sa
Yeah, thank you,
delay.
Johan. No problem. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having this conversation with you and with your audience.
Thank you for everyone who's watching. You can those who haven't, can catch the live. It will be available here in Facebook, and also probably later in Spotify and every podcast apps that I publish it to. So again, thank you very much, Ma'am Che, and
Thank
have a good
you. Have a good day, Johan. Thank you very much. Take care.
take care.